In the chaotic streets of Hong Kong, a city of lights, noise, ambition, and survival, a single crime brought the nation to a stunned halt. Amid towering skyscrapers and crowded alleyways, a young woman's silent screams went unheard until it was too late. It began with a missing person report, a 23-year-old woman named Fan Manyi. But what police found wasn't just the answer to a disappearance. It was a window into pure evil. In a small apartment in the Kowloon district, a Hello Kitty mermaid doll sat perched in a corner. Innocent, childlike, but inside its head was something grotesque, the boiled skull of the missing woman. What happened inside that apartment would haunt not only a city, but an entire generation. This is the Hello Kitty murder, one of the most disturbing and psychologically harrowing cases in Hong Kong's criminal history. Fan Manyi was born into hardship. Abandoned by her family as a young child, she spent her early years in an orphanage, a place meant to offer safety, but often marked by emotional detachment and isolation. By her teenage years, she was already on the streets. Alone, with no support system, she fell into the clutches of drug addiction and sex work. But Fan was trying to survive, trying to escape. Eventually, she married, had a son, and even found legitimate work as a nightclub hostess. There were moments of light in her life, fragile though they were. But one small mistake, stealing a wallet, would cost her everything. The wallet belonged to Chan Man Lok, a 34-year-old triad member known for drug dealing and violence. When Fan took it, she didn't realize who he was. She returned the money quickly, hoping that would end it. But Chan wasn't interested in money. He wanted control. He wanted revenge. In March 1999, Fan Manyi was abducted by Chan and two of his teenage associates, 14-year-old Lung Weilun and 16-year-old Lau Ming Fai. They brought her to an apartment in Tsim Sha Tsui, a building that, on the outside, looked no different from hundreds of others in the city. Inside, it became a chamber of horror. Over the next month, Fan was held captive, chained, starved, and tortured in unspeakable ways. She was beaten daily, not just with fists, but with metal bars and chair legs. The men dripped hot wax on her skin, burned her feet with melted plastic straws, and forced her to ingest their urine and feces. She was treated not as a human being, but as an object of cruelty, a toy for their rage. Her cries for mercy were mocked. Her suffering became their entertainment. One of the teenagers later testified that Fan was sometimes forced to laugh and act happy just to be spared another beating, a horrifying performance of gratitude, played out by a woman with no hope of escape. As days turned into weeks, her body began to fail. Broken bones, deep infections, starvation, and then, finally, her body gave out. Fan Manyi died in that apartment. But even in death, her suffering wasn't over. Once Fan was dead, the men faced a new problem: how to dispose of her body. What followed was as sickening as her captivity. They dismembered her remains and boiled her flesh in a large pot to reduce decomposition, not out of panic, but convenience. Eventually, only the skull remained. Instead of hiding it or burying it, Chan placed it inside a large Hello Kitty mermaid doll that sat in the apartment. A cartoonish, wide-eyed figure with an innocent grin, now holding a human skull in its hollow frame. It was a grotesque trophy, a symbol of complete domination. They had reduced a woman's life, her past, her pain, her efforts to escape the underworld, to a toy in the corner of a drug-ridden flat. Months passed, and no one knew what had happened to Fan, until an unlikely source broke the silence. One of the teenage accomplices, the 14-year-old girl, came forward. She told the police she was being haunted. She said she saw Fan in her dreams, that the ghost of the woman they had tortured was watching her, punishing her in sleep. At first, police didn't believe the girl's bizarre confession, but something in her eyes, the terror, the trauma, pushed them to investigate. When they finally searched the apartment, they discovered a scene that defied belief: bloodstains on the walls, cooking pots with traces of human tissue, and, in the corner, the Hello Kitty doll with a skull inside. Fan's skull. The trial in 2000 quickly became one of the most sensational cases in Hong Kong's legal history. Tabloids dubbed it the Hello Kitty murder. Public outrage grew as graphic details surfaced, and people began questioning how such evil could go unnoticed for so long. Chan and his two teenage accomplices were arrested and charged. But the case took a shocking turn. Because Fan's exact cause of death couldn't be determined, her body too badly decomposed, the three were convicted not of murder, but of manslaughter, along with unlawful imprisonment and the prevention of a lawful burial. The The leniency of the verdict sparked fury across Hong Kong. Many believed the law had failed Fan again, first in life, then in death. The teenage girl who had confessed was given immunity in exchange for her testimony. But in interviews, she admitted she would never escape what happened. The screams, the blood, the doll. She said Fan still visits her in her dreams. Today, the apartment where the crime occurred is long vacated. But its memory lingers. Fan Manyi's story became more than a crime. It became a reflection of a city's darkest corners: poverty, addiction, organized crime, and the unseen suffering of women on society's fringes. The Hello Kitty doll, once a symbol of childhood joy, became a twisted icon of human cruelty. And Fan, she became more than a victim. She became a voice for the voiceless. A tragic symbol of what happens when those in pain are ignored, discarded, and punished for trying to survive. If Fan's story moved you, do something about it. Comment below. Should her killers have received harsher sentences? Subscribe for more real, chilling cases from around the world. Let's remember the names behind the headlines and fight for the justice they never got.